Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the Black Diamond Podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at the Ascension Podcast Network and the Middle Initial Podcast. He's Jerry, I'm Chris, and this is the Paul O'Neill / who wore 21 for the Mets.
Well, I'm not going to acknowledge the most recent person to wear that. It was a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
Let's just call it the Cleon Jones episode. We can acknowledge our history. I'm fine with
that.
Yeah,
that works. Paul O'Neill and Cleon Jones, and as soon as I said that, I was like, oh yeah, didn't what's his name? He doesn't need to be named.
No.
I actually saw something interesting from, I think it was David Peterson. Was it his mom or his wife? I think it was his mom.
See that.
His mom, who also had some other controversial tweets having to do with like certain social political issues. She was very vocal.
I don't know if she's from Bobert's district, like.
But she basically said that she was glad that Max Scherzer was no longer on the Mets because he wouldn't fit in with the current vibes they have going on, where like Mendoza's like one of the guys, and they're all so tight-knit, and they're all having fun with their pumpkins and their grimaces and pop songs, and that he wouldn't have fit in with like the culture. So that I thought that was an interesting comment for her to make. And
Nationals fans who have nothing to their personality besides 2019 immediately popped up. Oh, well, he was doing all this stuff with us when we won. Like, your team anthem was Baby Shark. You should sit this one out.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I guess he was technically there when Texas won the World Series last year, but that
anthem was Creed.
Yeah. So, which I respect it. I respect that more than Baby Shark. I'll be honest.
Fair. Gun to my head, I think I could put up with Creed more than Baby Shark.
Yeah. No, Creed you can at least laugh about.
You throw back some beers with the fellas.
Do you know that like outside of Creed, Scott Strapp wrote a song, like I guess for his solo project about the Marlins.
Buddy, do I? Oh yeah.
Have we discussed this before?
We have not. That might. I don't know if we're going to do off-season shows, but if we do, I do think that's definitely one we need to bring up.
Let's play ball today.
Double plays.
We strike outs, we hit double plays.
The way you said double, like it used to annoy me, and now it's funny.
Yeah.
Like just the tragedy plus time equals comedy, I believe is how they say.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. I mean, I feel like I found out about it late enough that it was just always funny to me.
It was, and yet it might not even be the most ridiculous sports thing that Creed's ever done. If you've ever seen the Cowboys halftime show performance where he's wearing his own,
of course, that was perhaps perhaps the greatest halftime show for a football game that wasn't the Super Bowl.
You know what?
It's the most memorable one.
Ashley Simpson getting booed by 75,000 people still is funny to me. People have tried to make that like, oh, that was terrible. She lip synced. Sorry, people get to boo that.
Yeah, you gotta call a spade. I actually forgot about that. How long ago did that happen?
This makes me feel old as shit. It's gonna be 20 years. Actually, you know what? It's 20 years right now because it was.
Oh, wow.
That happened during my senior year of high school when she got busted on SNL. So that happened. It might have been like. Hang on, I'm gonna look that up right now while we're doing here. We might as well. I don't mind doing that. I have a handy MacBook to my right. Well, that might be 20 years old. Which, oh my god, that
was that like a Thanksgiving one, or
no? I think it might have been sooner than that.
Like a opening night, or
I don't think it might have been October.
Let's
see SNL date. October 23rd, 2004.
That was when she got. That was when like she went on SNL, or
Yeah, when she did the jig. The whole stadium booing her was the national championship game a few months later.
oh, for college football.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
that was funny because she tried to play it off after, like, oh, well, Oklahoma was playing and I'm from Texas, so half the stadium doesn't like me anyway. It's like,
No, you just
like 10% of that stadium's heard of you.
you just
You were
suck.
bad.
Yeah, and most people, like, I doubt the people there like really even knew what your affiliations were as far as college football goes.
Wait, wasn't that the girl that did a little jig on the stage? Wasn't that? That's about it.
Yeah. Anyway, the stage is set, so we can actually start talking about baseball now. The stage is set. We had to wait a few days, but the ALCS and NLCS matchups are both set. And both New York teams will be participating. We will have the Mets after smoking that Phillies pack.
This might be the most potent pack we've ever had in my 38 years.
They beat the Phillies. They beat the brakes off of the Phillies, honestly.
I can't quite say that. It was immensely satisfying, but boy, was Game 4 stressful. Game 1 was real close too.
Yeah, in Game 2 they were up, late in that game, and they like lost that game late, which led me to believe that their strategy needed to be to not have the lead going into the 8th inning in order to win.
We seem to do well when we concede first. You know, it is what it is. Also, I do want to follow up on this because I did mention this on the last show that Game 1 was going to be on a Saturday afternoon and I was going to have to do a game starting at the same time. Wouldn't you just know it? Our girls came through with a straight set victory, and I walked in the door to get home right as the 8th inning rally started in Game 1. Sometimes you're just living well. Sometimes,
yeah, I can't ask for much more. Time. Yeah, I think that's what you were. That's what you were hoping for on the last episode, right?
Oh yeah, I was like, I need that straight set victory.
Yeah, no, they came through. So I don't know if you'll have any further schedule conflicts in the NLCS with your announcing duties, but the Mets will be playing against the LA Dodgers starting tomorrow.
I believe Game 5 is on Friday, and I don't think they announced the start time for the first 3. I don't think they have for 4 and 5 yet. So that, and I believe that's a day where we're both playing. And I'm pretty sure I'm not saying this is complaining, but I'm pretty sure you guys are going to have all the primetime spots, which means we're probably starting at 4. So
which is kind of crazy. Yeah, which is kind of crazy. I mean, I think they are going to give the Yankees pretty much all the primetime games. I mean,
which it is what it is.
Like, they already have to this point. I mean, I'm a little surprised. Like, I'd be a little surprised if they didn't want to get the Dodgers in primetime at least once, though.
Well, there's going to be a few days where we're the standalone game. So
so you'll get the primetime game tomorrow.
Yeah,
and then you guys play at 4:00. Monday is supposed to, everyone's saying how Monday is like one of the biggest days in sport, like New York sports history, with the Mets and the Yankees both in ALCS games. That'll be Game 1 for the Yankees, Game 2 for the Mets. Jets playing the Bills for first place in the AFC East, and then also all three of like the New York, New Jersey hockey teams are playing. So that'll be an interesting night. That's the type of night where you have the 4 TV setup.
And then I think in the middle of that, the Knicks play Minnesota at home, and that's
tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's
tomorrow.
Like Brando and DiVincenzo come back and all that.
Yeah.
And respect to the ladies, the Liberty are playing in the WNBA final as well.
That's right.
Like,
That's right.
like
They're
nothing in there.
playing. That's on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. The Mets will be there'll be a standalone game Wednesday night. That's going to start at 8:00.
Yeah. So that'll be like. So I guess when the Yankees are not playing is when the Mets and Dodgers will be in prime time.
Which, like,
So,
I'm not going to complain about. Like, I'm happy we're playing. Like, all right, we start at 4:00. Okay.
Yeah. If the shoe were on the other foot, I would not care either. Like,
yeah, it's
do
like
what you do what you have to do to you do what you have to do to.
I'm dating Dua Lipa. I don't care who was dating her before. I'm dating her now. Like,
exactly. Yeah, like, so what if she wants you to pick you up at 4? Make it work.
Yeah, put it on my tab, boys.
But what a series for the Mets. I mean, Francisco Lindor once again coming through when the team needed it the most. If his back's still hurting from carrying the whole team, I couldn't really tell as that series went on.
Sometimes I don't know if I necessarily want to say that I called my shot, but I kind of feel like I alluded to it. Was right as they made the pitching change with Lindor coming up, and it's like, okay, they're bringing in Estevez. I tweeted, this is exactly the moment they brought him for. And I tweeted to one of my good friends who's a Met fan. I said, they make statues for moments like this.
Oh yeah.
Again, before it happened. And I guess maybe it was me like kind of like trying to wish it into existence, because those first 5 innings were torturous, because you're just, I don't know how many times I loudly said, stop swinging at his curveball. And it's like, once Suarez got out of the game, it's like, first off, we'd hit their bullpen in all 3 games. So it's like, okay, I don't fear these guys, whoever it is. And 2, all right, it's not Suarez anymore. That's all he's got is the curveball. And we're up there looking like we've never seen a breaking ball in our lives. Like, whoever it is, we've got a shot here.
Yeah. Like in games 1 in game 1 and also in game 4 when they clinched it. It really did feel like for the Mets, like, so game 1, like, Zach Wheeler was just like absolutely shoving. Like he said, like, he even said before that series started, like, oh yeah, I remember when like the Wilpons like made me pay to go to a playoff game that I like wasn't playing in. Like, I'll remember that. And to his credit, he did. But it did feel like for the Mets, it definitely felt like that was one of, like, both of those games were games where it's like, once the starting pitcher was out, they were just kind of like, they grabbed their knife and fork and they're like, all right, like, time to eat.
Well, game 1 was interesting because, I mean, I know we'd had success last month against the Phillies, but like everything wipes clean. And the Phillies bullpen had been a legitimate asset for them this year. And it's like, all right, it's only 1-0 and Wheeler's out. Like, this is the spot. If we're going to do anything, we got to do it now. But we didn't have the knowledge in game 1 that we did by game 4, where by the time Suarez came out, it was, okay, every single game, even the one we've lost, we've hit these guys. Now we really have a shot here. Like, he's out. He had 1 pitch that was baffling us. It doesn't matter who they've ran, and it was all their A guys too. It wasn't like we were hitting off the back of their bullpen. It's like Hoffman was an all-star. Strom was an all-star. Kerkering's maybe their best arm that they have in their bullpen. They went out and got Estevez just to make sure that they strengthened the bullpen even more. So it's like, these were the guys that they were counting on. These were the guys that were their bullpen last year. Some of these guys were there in 22 and have carried them through big spots. And it's like, if we can hit them 3 games in a row, well, what the hell? Why can't we do it again? But you never imagine that. And that's what makes it so special. It's just, all right, just get a ball through the infield here. We got enough speed on the bases here. We should get 2. We'll be okay. And, I'm listening to my music, but I see Lindor square it, and I see everyone in the first 3 rows behind on the shot just immediately shoot up, and it's just, oh, no way. No way. And I can't recreate the noises I'd make because I would blow out the audio on this show here. So but you can imagine. And I'm trying to think of bigger home runs I've seen. I mean, I've been living and dying with Met games for 25 years now. There's not too many more home runs that have produced that feeling of, oh my God, this is what we wanted to happen. And he actually went and did it. Like you asked the superstar on cue, hit a grand slam to bury these guys and win the series. Like, that's movie stuff.
Yeah.
And then it actually happens.
And for him to actually come through and do it in that moment was he pretty much, he's already solidified himself as like an all-time Met.
That's another one of those things that, I mean, we've talked about on the show, like 20 years from now, whatever I'm doing, one night I'm just going to type in Francisco Lindor Grand Slam, and hopefully they haven't banned YouTube by that point. And I'll just type that in 2024 NLDS, and I'll just smile because I'll never forget, like, oh, we were waiting for a hurricane to come. And all my cares in the world disappeared in that moment.
Yeah. It provided you with it provided you with an emotional boost, in a make-believe kind of way that does not provide food, housing, jobs, or insurance, or the things that people need when hurricanes hit their areas. But
we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay.
Brad, glad you guys are okay. Francisco saved the day, and he provided a Disney World like moment for you in down there in Orlando.
And credit to this Met team, because everybody did something. Like the starting pitching. I mean, Minaya, fantastic.
He
was coming in 2 months without a competitive game, and outside of the Schwarber homer looked fine. And I have
he gave you like 4 innings that game, and that was the first game back since like end of July.
And like, I'm not even counting the rehab, because that's like, it is a competitive game, but for him, it's like he's not thinking about wins, losses, and results. It's, am I healthy? So the first game that he's really going out there to pitch to win in over 2 months, he did that. And I have all the faith in the world in him to go out there and do that again in game 1. Peterson, low-key, until Lindor hit that grand slam, I would have said Peterson was the MVP of that series.
Yeah.
Because he's doing out there, and I applaud Mendoza for doing this. And I know I'm not the first person to have this thought. I think Meek Phil on Twitter might have had the original idea. But they're deploying him the way the Nationals used Patrick Corbin in 2019, where, and I think they might have done this with Strasburg too, where it's, hey, look, we don't have 3 guys in our bullpen that we trust to get important outs. If we're going to go to our starters for high leverage spots after that night's starter is out, then that's what we got to do. And Corbin probably won them that series with some major innings. And I don't know how that series goes if Peterson doesn't immediately come in to pick up Senga in game 1, and then in game 4 to make sure that it stayed a 1-0 game. And I think if they're going to beat the Dodgers, especially when you have Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, and Max Muncy as your lefty bats, they're going to need him to do that again. Credit him. Starling Marte had the best one-hit series I've ever seen. When I actually looked it up and it said Starling Marte went 1 for 11 in the series, I'm like, he had to have had at least 5. There's no other way. It felt like he was in the middle of everything in that series. I mean, Alvarez worked some important walks in there. Pete had his big hits. Vientos, maybe the best development of this postseason, regardless of how this plays out. If there were any remaining doubts at all about Mark Vientos being a guy, no, he's here. He is not afraid of the moment. He has just delivered again and again and again as the playoffs have gone along, to where you can fully trust this guy. Now, whether he plays third base next year or he's the DH, that's next year's problem. But he is a part of this team going forward that you can depend on, and that's huge. Brandon Nimmo consistently making plays. Tyrone Taylor, again, in the middle of things consistently, time after time. Jesse Winker, coming up big again and pissing everyone off. And it's so great that the Mets have one of those guys. I can't remember the last time we did. I love that so much for us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always the other team that has a guy like that just like fucks you like time and time again. And I know that you were saying, I know you were saying we've been saying a lot like this year. You've been saying how, like this team has a lot of games that, like 10, 15 years from now, there's going to be like a rain delay. There's going to be a rain delay, and on SNY, they're going to put like, one of many of these, like just like crazy magical games from this 2024 season. And, everyone will kind of look back and be like, oh yeah, that was, that was like the Grimace year, or, oh yeah, like what a fun season that was. But now it's like the more and more happens, the more and more like, it's like the more and more shit's like getting real. And like, it went from like, oh yeah, this could be a fun season for the Mets to like, this could be like a historical season for the Mets. Like,
yeah, we were talking about this before we went on air, and it's now to a point where now it's like, if we lose, like it'll, if the Dodgers beat us here, like, okay, I know people love pointing out that we have the highest payroll. It's like, okay, very nice. You notice that we still have a bunch of dead money on our books. Can we revisit those preseason record predictions again? Well, you want to bring those up anytime? Like the Dodgers were supposed to be here.
Cool. You can read a chart.
Yeah.
Very cool. And like, also those payroll numbers are like kind of the Dodgers numbers are kind of skewed because like I don't think it doesn't account for like all the deferred money that Shohei is getting.
And even then, that tells you, like, they're paying Yamamoto a ton. They're paying Glasnow a ton. They're paying Freddie Freeman a ton. Mookie Betts a ton. There's a lot of money tied up here. But, like, the Dodgers are the team that are always at this stage. Almost always. I mean, I know the last 2 years they weren't, but they have consistently gotten to at least the NLCS for the better part of a decade and been in a bunch of World Series. This is what they do.
Yeah.
They have Freddie Freeman. He's won a World Series. Mookie Betts has won multiple World Series. Like, this is what they do. Like go back and look at the opening day lineup for this team. I don't think it part of me is like, I'm open to anything happening in this series because, like we said before, the Milwaukee series, like, yeah, they did play us at the beginning of the year. It's like, but they didn't play this team.
Right.
The Dodgers haven't played this team. Like, no. And go back and look. This is the Mets opening day lineup. DJ Stewart was the DH. Brett Beatty was playing third. Like, Michael Tonkin threw relief innings in the opener. Drew Smith threw relief innings. Jorge Lopez. The last time Jorge Lopez played a game was the last time the Mets played the Dodgers. And I think we all remember what happened that day. Like, yeah, they haven't seen this.
No, they have not seen this version of the Mets. The Dodgers were they were a pre-Grimace opponent, so it's like pretty hard to even really like take any of the their head-to-head matchups like in the regular season. They really don't hold that much weight when you're like projecting or it was all analyzing how this series could possibly go.
They were all pre-June 1st. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it was like right before June 1st, and that was like, yeah, that was like right around the time where the Mets were like bottoming out, and that was right around the time where a lot of people were like, all right, like this team is this team is doomed.
It's lull Mets season. That's what everybody thought.
Yeah, that was LOL Mets time, and then you had a good old Jude Jackson who really just reverse mushed the Mets. In addition to Grimace, and in addition to oh my God and everything, Hawk Tour girl and everything the Mets have been, all the shenanigans the Mets have been up to that have been all the memes that have been willing them to victory. You did have Jude Truth, he said that the Mets would have a June swoon because that's what they always do or what they've always done. But
he's very lucky I can't hit the chair gritty like Kev.
it was you could try. It was a June boom though for the Mets, and
It sure was.
the boom never really went away. There were times where it felt like it was going away, but it never really did. And now here you are. You get to play the LA Dodgers. There's really no juggernaut team in MLB this year, but I guess if there was supposed to be one, they were supposed to be the juggernauts, like you were saying. They're the team that's supposed to be here.
I kind of look at them going into this series the same way I did Philly, which is if people view the Dodgers as the favorites, that's fine.
They should be favored.
But I absolutely see ways that we can win this series. 100% I do.
Oh, definitely.
There's no reason that anyone on this team or anyone in this fan base should think, oh my God, how are we going to pull this off? No, it can be done. I mean, even to look back at that schedule, yes, they did sweep the Mets at Citi Field there, but of course that was also the month of May where everything went poorly. But they did play 3 games at Dodger Stadium in April. They won 2 of them.
Yep, one of them did.
Started by Yoshi Yamamoto. This guy, and that was with a far inferior lineup. He didn't face this lineup. They haven't seen Jack Flaherty this year. The Dodgers are going to have at least 1 bullpen game in this series, probably 2.
Yeah, I'd say probably 2. I mean,
absolutely can be done.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers bullpen has to be fairly taxed at this point.
Oh yeah,
they had a bullpen game in game 4 against the Padres to keep their season alive, and then Yamamoto only threw 63 pitches last night in the clincher. He gave him 5 innings, and if you're a Dodgers fan, 100%, you take that, even though it's only 63 pitches for a pitcher that's still semi-injured and still getting back into it, you definitely take those 5 innings and run. But, now you're going on, you only got the 1 day of, really only 1 day of rest before you're starting another series, 48 hours basically to rest up. And then, in come the Mets. So yeah, it doesn't really, it doesn't really get any easier for them.
And I think the fact that they lost Alex Vesia, or at least
and Vesia seems highly unlikely it's highly unlikely Vesia will be on the Dodgers NLCS roster. So yeah, their bullpen is definitely taxed and definitely a little bit banged up. So, if there is a way for the Mets to, I think for both of the Yankees and the Mets, the key for, both teams winning their respective series is going to be to get ahead early. Because I think both the Dodgers and the Guardians have pretty good bullpens. I mean, the Guardians have, the best closer in baseball in Emmanuel Clase. And their setup guys before him are pretty good too. The Dodgers also have a very solid bullpen. Yankees and Dodgers both probably have, the best bullpens in the postseason, statistically speaking. And
I do think what you said about the Dodgers to the Mets, I think also applies for you guys, and even more so for the Guardians, in that this is basically what they do every game is, okay, yeah, we'll start Bybee or we'll start Boyd, or we'll have a nominal starter, but they almost immediately go to the bullpen game format.
Yeah,
sometimes
they basically had a bullpen game today to close out that series, and they got a game, and then they got to go to New York and they got to play a game in 2 days. I think that this year, I know, after last year, people were kind of questioning the playoff format and is the bye really worth it? But I mean, aside from the Mets, all the bye week teams were able to win. So it's almost getting the bye was never really the problem, or rest versus rust was never the problem. And having that time off, I think, is it is an advantage. It definitely, I think it worked obviously it worked in the Yankees' favor because they won. It like did and it didn't, because like coming into that game, coming into that game one, like Cole looked a little bit off in game one, and then like when he got on his I think that was like the extra rest was like made him rusty because I think he was at like 6 or I think he was at over a week's rest at that point because I think he had pitched like the Thursday before, like he pitched the last game against the Orioles of the regular season, which was on like Thursday, September 26th or whatever day it was. And, he pitched that game and then he doesn't pitch until Saturday. So he has like 9 days of rest. And I think that threw him off in that game one. And then, but then, they lose game 2, they win game 3. And then, game 4, Cole comes back in like on his normal rest schedule and he was absolutely lights out. So, that's like, like you could say, for, you talk about like these superstars and how much money, a lot of these people make, like how much money, well, no one's really talking about it anymore because these guys are performing and stepping up. Like, all like Cole stepped up when the Yankees needed him to step up the most because we did not want a game 5. We did not need a game 5. I do not need to be watching a game 5 right now. I need to be watching college football, relaxing and, recording this podcast and enjoying my night and not getting blackout drunk due to, levels of stress.
Your highest inconvenience of the evening is that Penn State won. That's it.
Yeah. Which is like, I fucking hate them so much, but yeah, that is probably the highest inconvenience of the evening so far. Islanders are currently losing. So, there's also that, but I'll be honest with you. I really could give 2 fucks about hockey right now.
Yeah. It's October hockey. Like I can't get mad until like at least New Year's.
So. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. New Year's, maybe like, you check in around Thanksgiving and see where you're at. That's kind of like one of the just
don't put yourself too far back. You don't win anything, but like you can put yourself in a hole. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So I could give a fuck about that, but yeah, I'm definitely glad
there's at least one
game 5. But yeah, like
one half of this podcast roots for a team that puts up regular season champions banners. For fuck's sake.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, and because think about it, like. That's something where, like, that's something that, you would kind of expect, like, all right. So, like, say, like, if, if the Yankees or the Mets were going to hang a goofy banner like that, like, what team you think it would be? Like, no offense. I feel like, that would be something like the Mets would do.
Well, they do have wild card winner banners, but like we were talking about this before the show, you play a 162 game season. Like,
that was when there were like 4 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, like,
I remember everyone clown the Nashville Predators for doing that after they went out in the second round. It's like, all right, and we went out in the conference final. Like, I don't think that's much better. So,
yeah, like I mean, I know the Islanders. I don't think they've ever won a President's Trophy in my lifetime. Probably never will. So we'll never really know, but I would hope that if we ever do win the President's Trophy, that we have the self-respect to not do the regular season champion on the banner. Like, at least make it say President's Trophy.
Yeah, don't. You're just opening yourself up to that, and
yeah, but like the superstars have really stepped up this postseason. I mean, Cole, he even in the game that he didn't pitch so well, like, he did okay enough to give his team a chance to win. Lindor coming up huge in the hugest moments. You have, Yamamoto went out there and he gave you 5 shutout innings in a game 5. Like, pretty much like
saved Cleveland season.
Yeah, Jose Ramirez helped save Cleveland's season. And I'm trying to think. I mean, Giancarlo Stanton, he gets paid big money, and we're seeing why. I have one friend who, he always tries to say like the Giancarlo Stanton contract is like one of the worst contracts in baseball, and he always tries to get me to like admit it's a bad contract, and I'm just like dying on the hill that like that it's not. Like, listen, is he, for the amount he's available, is he overpaid? Yes, but it's not my money, and he shows up when it matters the most, like always. Like
the Yankees weren't the one that gave him that contract in the first place.
We weren't. We absorbed. We absorbed it. We absorbed the money, but
and
we
two,
didn't.
like you do that with the idea of we're gonna win on the front end. Like we're taking that contract, but we're paying him for what he's doing right now, which he was just coming off the MVP season. So yeah, that's what you do.
And
like,
for
always how it's gonna be on the back end. Like you just live with that.
Yeah, and for what he's doing, in the playoffs this year, and for how important he's really been to our lineup, like the Yankees with and without Giancarlo Stanton were two different teams this year. The team, the team from like June to July that like without Giancarlo and pre-Jazz Chisholm trade, like that team from June to July, like that was that was not a good baseball team.
That was the Trenton Thunder.
Yeah, it was the Trenton Thunder with Judge and Soto, and he comes back and they get Jazz, and immediately they start winning, they flip the script, and they're able to clinch the number one seed and win the AL East. And the Yankees won this series on the back of Giancarlo Stanton, and also on the back of of their bullpen. But as far as Giancarlo's contract, I mean, if this is what he's doing like this year, if this is the difference he's making now for this team this year and in these playoffs, this is what he's doing. The back nine of that contract's not looking too bad either.
No, that's
could be a lot worse.
And he's been like that since he got to New York. Like he's always been consistently a guy that you can count on in October. And I think that's secretly the deal that, I feel like you'd agree with this, Chris. I think most Yankee fans every year kind of go into the season of, hey, we just got to get him there. If we get him there, he'll show up. And then you just got to hope one or two more guys can meet him. I'm not going to make any references or jokes about anyone else in that lineup because God forbid Doomsday Part 2 happens again. I will not be making those jokes. Not yet. Hopefully.
Why don't you no, I don't think you should pull your punches. Why don't you tell us how you really feel?
No. I will not be.
You don't want the smoke.
No.
Okay.
I'm not built different. I'm built the same. I am
built different, maybe not in a good way.
Built like a sandcastle.
I am built like a sandcastle. Built ordinarily, but and you bring up like needing one or two more guys to kind of also get there with him. I would say right now the next closest guy to him in that lineup, it's got to be Glaber. He had a really good ALDS. He has I think he has like the fourth highest all time WRC plus in like Yankees postseason history.
Wow.
He's like right up there with I think Giancarlo is pretty high up there too.
If Bernie Williams ain't one, I'd be stunned.
He is not number one, I don't think. I'm pulling up the tweet now. My buddy Paul sent it to me. But top 5 Yankees postseason hitters of the wild card era. Number 1 is Giancarlo Stanton with a 160. WRC plus. Yeah, this is in the wild card era, so that dates back to like.
Well, that's why Bernie's not in it.
Yeah.
well, wait. Well, no, if it's the wild card era, that would mean if they're talking the original, then yeah, he should be in there.
They had a wild card in like that era. Yeah, so it goes Giancarlo Stanton at number 1 with a 160 WRC plus. Jason Giambi, who if Jason Giambi was on this current Yankees team, I think we would go. I think we'd go 11-0 in this postseason.
Yeah. Jason Giambi in that Yankee Stadium, yeah.
Yeah, like especially with like the and I want to give credit to John Birdie, because I think even though he didn't really hit, he never played first base before, and as easy of a position, in quotes, that first base is to play. For someone who never played that position before, and it's like everything kind of ends with you as the first baseman. I thought he did a really good job. Like that one play where he turned the double play where he stepped on the bag, and then he made the quick strong throw to second where Volpe tagged him out, and then the Royals cleared the benches for some reason, which was probably the biggest waste of time as far as like a benches clearing brawl goes that I've ever seen. Did you see
Taylor
that?
Swift enters your city, and then you got to make a big deal out of every little thing. That's
like, and it was I believe it was Michael Garcia who was starting shit with Volpe on that play, like, and he was the one who slid hard into the base. So I don't see what the issue is. Like Volpe just tagged him, and then he kind of just tagged him a few times, and then he kind of just pat him on the back, and then he just kind of death stared him, and then
you're sliding into second base. Like
we had a little meeting of minds.
Like there's times like, and I try not to. I don't want to sound like someone stuck in the 70s, but like I see something like that, and it's like, hey, if you don't like that, then take your ass to golf. Like, yeah. I don't know what else to tell you.
Come on. I understand, baseball players do have very fragile egos, and the littlest things, like how long, the amount of seconds it takes you to run around in a diamond-shaped circle, or the amount of rotations that a piece of wood does in the air, or the amount of the amount of like fist pumps you do as a pitcher after you strike someone out. Like all these little things like piss people off. The bat flip.
Got that on tonight. Anniversary of that is Monday, which, my God, that's almost been a decade. That's nuts.
The Joey bats flip, I assume.
The greatest inning in the history of baseball. And I can't find an argument for another one. Like, for the weird stuff that happened to the Rangers at the top of that inning, and then everything that happened in the bottom of the 7th. Yeah, it was like 50 minutes in total, and might have been an hour, because there was a long delay after the home run, because people started throwing stuff, and the Sam Dyson.
Yeah, I very vaguely remember watching that, like, in my bedroom at the time. And I feel like I remember, like, I vividly remember, like, the graphic coming on saying that that it was like one of like if not the longest inning in like postseason baseball history or something like that. It was like a whole hour long.
That's the inning that, like, if you meet someone who's never watched baseball before and they say, "Oh, well, why should I care about this?" You show them that inning, you go, "This is why we get worked up about this stuff."
You show them that inning.
That was cool.
You show them that inning. I think, like for me, like when people say when people are like, "Oh, baseball's boring," or which is just like a crazy thing to think. I think if you think baseball's boring, basically it's just like, I'm going to sound like an asshole saying this, but I think, like, if you think baseball's boring, you basically lack the intelligence to understand what's going on. or like, or it might just not be for you. Like baseball's not for everyone. But and I do think they've done a good job with like speeding up the game and stuff. But like for the baseball is boring crowd, I'll always be like 2016 World Series. That inning of baseball and the and what followed the following season between Bautista and Odor. Honestly, I would put this year's this season's playoffs as a whole. I would say is like a great rebuttal for the baseball's boring crowd. These playoffs have been fantastic.
I always say, and I get why people don't look back at that World Series fondly because of what we know after the
fact. Yeah, the Astros-Dodgers was one of the best World
That Game 5 is maybe the best game of baseball I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
From start to finish is insane.
Yeah,
like
that game
all the lead changes. There were bullpen meltdowns. They had a walk-off. There were multiple comebacks in that game from both teams. Yeah, I could watch that anytime. Even knowing what we know.
That's
so what it's supposed to look like.
Interesting little nugget about that game. So I actually missed a good part of that game because me and a couple of my buddies, we drove up to Cleveland that day to go to a Cavs-Knicks game. In like 2007, like end of October 2017. We actually saw what do you call it? Like the people who do we saw like the Ghostbusters like live. They did like a halftime show.
The Ghostbusters,
or like the people who do the song, the Ghostbusters song.
Oh, Ray Parker.
Yeah, Ray Parker. Ray Parker performed at the halftime show.
Good for him.
Of that game, and so then game. Yeah, it was like a 7 o'clock or 7:30 game. So we get out like 9:30 or 10, drive back to Pittsburgh, about a 2-hour drive, and we're listening. We're listening to the game. We're listening to that game on the radio, like on like the MLB.TV like radio stream on the way home. And then we go to and then we get back and the game's still going on. And then we go to a bar and watch like 6 more innings of baseball, like some of the best baseball you'll ever see.
Yeah, it was.
So like even though we missed most of that game, we still kind of like the fact the game like went on like 6 more innings. Like by the time we got home, I think it ended in like 12 or 13 innings, or something like that. Like we still felt like we still felt like we like got our money's worth as far as like we felt like we got to go to that Knicks game and we basically got to see like half of like one of the best games of all time.
Like that to me is what postseason baseball is supposed to be, is every single moment. You're like, all right, what's going to happen now? What's the next thing?
And postseason baseball really, I think this year also just proves that October baseball is just, it's always great, but it's always better when like the New York teams are in it and are making deep runs. Which leads me to
the best meme I've seen is it's the 2 sides of the bus meme. Just postseason baseball when your team's in it. Postseason baseball when your team's not in it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, like
I love this dress. This is why we sign up to get to here. But holy shit.
It's like if the Mets win the World Series, it should just be a meme of like, the meme of like the guy where it's like basically like, he has like the scribbled in like face and he just looks like, he's like dying of like stress or whatever.
Like hollowed out eyes.
Like doesn't have eyes. It should just be that like with like, it should just be a meme of like that, like with like the World Series trophy and a piece of metal in his hand, like, and like a Mr. Met logo or something.
No, it would be the, did you win? Yes.
Yes.
What did it cost? Everything.
Literally everything. It costed my sanity and my
health.
humanity.
They've cut off both my legs at the knees. They don't work anymore. I drank too much. It's not good. Would you do it again? Hell fucking yes, I would. This is before we hit the next topic, and I didn't get to mention this with the NLDS stuff, but this is something that I've talked about for the last month on this show, and this got to happen again. We talked about the opportunity when you go on runs like this to burn your history, to burn the demons.
Yeah.
And I talked about what Lindor's home run in Atlanta meant, and coming through and with the Milwaukee series, being able to put 2022 to bed. And it's like, okay, we got past that.
Yeah.
It's weird. I was having this conversation with Kev during the series in the DMs and explaining, that we're, people look at us and see us as the Braves being our chief rival. And they might have more history with us just in the past 30 years. But make no mistake, as it is in basketball and hockey, New York and Philadelphia hate each other like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think if you're not in it, you don't know about it as much. But even for me, prior to 2007, I never looked at the Phillies like that. Like we never played each other in a playoff series. There weren't any close pennant races with us and them. It was just like, yeah, they're the team nearby. Like, yeah, you'd like to beat them, but all right, we haven't played them for anything meaningful. 2007 and 2008 have been seared into my brain since, because not only did we blow it, we let them start they basically had their golden age there from 2007 to 2011. They got to get in and win a World Series in 2008 because we folded. And then the Phillies spent half their World Series parade talking about us, and they haven't shut up about it since. Jimmy Rollins always talks about us. Shane Victorino always talks about us. Cole Hamill spent half his retirement speech talking about
What is it with teams that won championships in 2008 and haven't won since? Well, now the Celtics finally won, but what is it with teams that won in 2008 and just never shut the fuck up about it ever since? Like between them and the Celtics that year, those teams just, the players on those teams just never seem to be able to shut up about it. But
the best part of this is, and then 22 added to it, because that was supposed to be our year. And then you look up and it's, well, we completely collapsed. And now the Phillies are going to have another era again. And then they went back last year and it's like, we're going to do this again. All of that got lit on fire Wednesday night. Like 2007. I mean, like people say you need to win. Yes, I would like for us to win because I want one. But it was, someone said it's like, and I don't bring this up to pick on, but someone said it's like what 2004 did in that rivalry. It doesn't change what happened, but it can't be, Phillies fans can't use the past against us the way they did.
Yeah,
because now not only did we win that series, we weren't supposed to be there, and you guys were legitimate World Series favorites. You came into this year and throughout the year believed you were supposed to be going there. And there are Phillies fans I know who were like, did we just have our window closed? We're going to have to, we're going to have to make major changes here. Like they can't run the team back.
Yeah, they have
did that. And that's there forever. Like that's another demon that we get to light on fire. And Phillies fans can't tell me shit. I mean, something might happen again down the line, but for right now, I don't have to hear anything.
Vindication. Yeah, it seems like a lot of the Mets, like so much of the Mets like playoff run has just been like poetry in motion for them. Like you beat the Braves to get in like what's essentially like essentially a 2-game playoff. You beat the Braves to get in. They end up losing to the team that you avoided, the Padres. So you exercise the Braves demons for like all the times they've been a thorn in your side. Then you beat the Brewers, the wild card round. You exercise those demons and the demons of Phillies past with Rhys Hoskins and all his manufactured bullshit. And then you go and you beat the Phillies, perhaps one of the biggest demons for a Mets fan with everything that happened in 07 and 08. And also the fact that, Phillies were, Phillies fans the past few years acting like, we're going to get another one. And, LOL, poverty Mets, whatever they had to say. So you exercise that. And yeah, there's just been a level of like poeticness to it all. And now like you get the Dodgers and a chance to, and a chance to beat them, and a chance to knock off Ohtani, who, he didn't want the smoke in New York. He didn't want to be a Met or a Yankee. Didn't want to be one when he came over from Japan, and he didn't want to be in New York when when he was a free agent last year. And when he was making that decision, he gave us each the time of the, he gave us time of day, but we were never serious contenders for him.
And also, I was thinking about this because I was like, okay, there's been a theme for each one so far. And I know people will point to, oh, winner of this series, you get the MVP, which, like, to me, like, oh, cool. But right now there's bigger things. And then it hit me. They've got Freddie Freeman, a man who has killed us for years.
4 years.
Different uniform now, but has history with us all the same. It would be nice to like, cool. If we beat him, cool. I never have to hear about that again, because when we played him when it really mattered, we beat him. That was nice to say.
Yeah. And then one quick point I just wanted to make too before we get to our next topic, which is basically going to close out at least this part of the program. As far as like for this next round, I think for both teams, obviously getting ahead is going to be key. I think for the Yankees from a pitching standpoint, I think for them, it's going to be a matter of don't let the top of that lineup beat you. Stephen Kwan, I think, is before this year, I always thought Stephen Kwan was like underrated. And now I feel like he's finally, Stephen Kwan's finally like getting the recognition he deserves as like a pretty damn good baseball player and like a damn good leadoff hitter, so you got to do what you can to stop him from setting the table for Jose Ramirez. And you kind of got to not, you kind of got to not let Jose Ramirez beat you. I think that's going to be key, obviously. Yeah. And, keeping those Naylor brothers in check too, particularly Josh Naylor.
There's history there.
Especially in the friendly confines of Yankee Stadium. You need to make sure that you're on your shit with him too, because he could definitely do some damage. And they have a lot of guys right now who are just they have like they're kind of the hot hand right now, I think, or they have a lot of hot hitters. And I think that's probably my one concern for the Yankees is the lack of hot hitters at the time. Like, we were talking about before, like how you want someone to join like one or two guys to like, kind of match Giancarlo's energy or like complement his production in the lineup. Cause Judge's postseason struggles, well documented. Obviously this wasn't a good series for him. I do like that, he was still getting on base and drawing walks during the series. Cause like, even though he clearly wasn't on, like you still got to respect him. So teams are pitching around him a good amount. So it's good that, the eye is still there and that the plate discipline's still there. And then he did rope that double in Game 4. So like, hopefully that kind of starts to get him going, going into this next series. I think Soto had he had a pretty decent series. I think you'd like to see a little bit more out of him, and I think you need to get a little bit more out of Jazz. In order to win this series, you're going to need more than just like Giancarlo and Gleyber, because I think the Guardians are a much better team than the Royals.
Now, here's my question for you, having watched the AL series as a neutral. We saw throughout this series the way Cleveland platoons heavy and is not afraid to make those changes in game, both with their bullpen and with their lineup. And even for me with no dog in the fight, just kind of watching it unfold, I could sense how this would be very frustrating as an opponent, because it's, if you just play your game, so to speak, and it's, you know what, they can make the moves that they want. This is the best 9 we have. If this is the pitcher that I think is the best guy for us right now, I'm going to stick with him and, forget the platoons and what else. This is what I think is the best group that we can have to win right now. And if you stick with that and then it doesn't go well, you get killed. But then there's also the possibility that if you try to, play the chess game with them, Cleveland's more prepared to play that game than other teams are. They might not be as talented as the Yankees are, or the Astros, or any of these other teams, but Cleveland has a style that they play, and they know when they're going to make their moves. Okay, well, we didn't start the lefty today. We're going to bring him in here in the 4th inning. We're going to force their hand, and they're going to have to take their starter out of the game, or they brought in their best reliever early here in the 6th inning. All right, well, cool. He's been used already. We're willing to play that because we know in the spot where we really need it, now you can't go to that guy. I wonder, for you, do you feel like
if you're trying,
I don't want this to sound like I'm being archaic, but I feel like if I'm a Yankee fan, I would almost tell Boone, like, don't play their game. Like,
no.
If they want to do all that, cool, but like that's not our game.
No, it almost feels like trying to match their game and get into a chess match with them definitely feels like falling into a trap, and going into a trap of playing their game. And that's where I think things could get dangerous for the Yankees.
And
I actually will give Boone a lot of credit for this past series. As far as postseason series go, this was might be the best one that this might be the best managerial job he's done as a in a postseason series as Yankee manager, was this past one. It just seemed like he always had it just seemed like he had it didn't seem as numbers driven as it usually feels. It feels like he had a feel for the game. He knew kind of knew to give Cole the short leash in that first game. And he kind of knew that when he was shoving in game 4, leave him in. His pitch count is low and he's been shoving all night. Who cares that it's we're going on time 3 or time 4 through the lineup. Leave him in. And I think with the bullpen mixing and matching, because we kind of do that too. And I think we do have a better overall bullpen than Cleveland. Cleveland has the best closer in the game. Although Luke Dreamweaver has emerged as a he's emerged as a great great closer and weapon for us in this in these playoffs especially. And it's crazy because I remember watching game 1 and Boone asked him for a 4-out save in game 1. And it's Yankee Stadium, playoff atmosphere, and it's I see, he gets the first out in the 8th inning, and then he's and then I'm watching the bottom of the 8th, and he's just they'll pan the camera to him chilling in the dugout, and it's obviously not allowed to have facial hair, and for a very young fellow like him, that's not gonna make you look any older. So just seeing his baby face in the dugout, and he just, I don't know, he kind of looked like a kid that I would pick up weed from in high school or something. And just seeing him look like that, with that look, it's all right, does this kid have this that dog in him to go out and do this right now? They're asking to get 4 outs. I know he's been great for us all year, but I just hope this moment's not too big for him. And then he comes through in that, and then in the clinching game, Boone asked him for a 5-out save. Or I think he actually asked for 6 outs, and it was never really that shit was never anything to him. So, hats off to him for coming up big. And Boone's been pulling all the right strings in the postseason. Clay Holmes also is doing really well in his his redefined role, and credit to him for like handling like the demotion like a professional, and like not letting it like spiral any further, and like being locked down in the postseason. Now I know you probably don't want to make a prediction for the Mets series.
I haven't for the first two.
So yeah, you definitely don't have. Do you want to predict the Yankees Guardians series?
I do think you guys win because, I think I've mentioned this a couple of times while I've been on the show. Like, even when you guys were playing them in the regular season, I feel like you guys match up with them very well for a 7-game series. And then add to the fact that you have played. I know this iteration of the Guardians has really only existed since the Lindor trade, but you did beat them in 2020 on their turf. You beat them in 2022 when, things were getting a little wobbly there, but you found your way through.
Yeah. This is the first time we're playing them in like a 7-game series, like in recent memory, because we also beat them in 2017.
Oh yeah.
And Lindor had some moments. He had some Cleveland moments at the time too.
Someone synced up the Vasgersian call of that to the one from the other night.
That was Santa
bangs.
Maria.
It still bangs.
Yeah.
Which is like that. I think that series is actually a best case for everyone on this show. The Yankees won. Lindor had his moment, and everybody gets to laugh at Trevor Bauer. So that's What could you want?
So the W.
Someone tweeted it, and I was trying to find it, but it does feel so weird for the Yankees to have just a closer, because you had Rivera for that long, and after a while, it's not just that he's great; it's that you're going with the understanding of this is the greatest closer that will ever play this game, and you go in going, "Oh, we're done." And then, Chapman wasn't as automatic, but there was the intimidation factor of, this guy can hit 105 like and you don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
Like, again, and I don't say this to say that Luke Weaver's not good, because he's clearly doing it. But you just see Luke Weaver out there and you're like, all right, what's the hook?
Yeah.
No, he's just a closer. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
and listen, there are teams that win titles that just have a closer. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of, I think that's kind of been the norm for like, probably the past couple of decades of baseball.
Jose Leclerc was the Rangers closer. People don't talk about him.
Jose Leclerc, and that's not even that. Like, it's not even a super defined role for him. I feel like they're kind of all over the place with him.
The Braves won with Will Smith as their closer, and Braves fans were terrified of him being out there.
Yeah.
By the way, the Will Smith streak has come to an end.
Yep. That Will Smith, it's going to be his first time not playing in the World Series in many years? Like 3 or 4 years.
He was on the 21 Braves, he was on the 22 Astros, and then he was on the Rangers last year.
Yeah. So the 3-year Will Smith Linsanity run is over, but you got the other better Will Smith on the Dodgers to worry about now. So you think the Yankees win? How many games do you think it goes?
Personally, I think 5, maybe 6.
Yeah, I think 6 or 7 for the Yankees. I think Yankees win. We'll say in 6. We'll meet right in the middle. I think Yankees in 6. I do think the Guardians are going to steal. The Guardians are going to get probably at least one game. Hopefully, I think winning game 1 will be key. Hopefully the Yankees don't have to like find themselves behind at any point in this series. But
like we said, with having to always do a bullpen game is, and it feels like every time
eventually that's got to catch up.
Yeah, and it's like if Gaddis is always throwing the 6th and 7th. If Cade Smith always has to throw the 2nd through the 5th, like. And it's not even the fact of, we've talked before about how pitch counts can kind of be not quite telling the whole story. It's not even the fact of they throw warm-up pitches. It's that these are the highest, not even highest leverage, high stress pitches, especially when these guys are going to have to go into Yankee Stadium, and you go in with the knowledge of, all right, if I don't put this ball exactly where I want, whoever this is at the plate might take it 430, to say nothing of, 22-99 and 27. And that's if I could still put this ball exactly where I want and I could still get taken yard. That's the intimidation factor. So that adds on to the mental strain of I have to get every single pitch right or we're toast. And you just have to do that for 3 rounds. I don't eschew the idea of bullpenning it, but this is why it's so hard to do in the postseason.
It's why it's hard to it's harder to sustain over a 7-game series. Like I think you could get by with it in a in a 4 or 5 game series in the divisional round, but it's really hard to win a 7-game series in the final or semifinal with doing with by just like bullpenning it. So we'll go Yankees in 6 as a family play for the ALCS. I know you don't want to make a prediction for the Mets series.
Not gonna be able to do it,
but I'll make one. Give me a second though.
Floor is yours.
So I'm gonna go with the Dodgers, but I think it's gonna go 7. I really do. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna say Dodgers in 6, but if it does go 7, the Mets are gonna win because they got destiny on their side. So if it does get to a 7th game, I think the Mets will win. But Dodgers, Yankees in 6 and Dodgers in 6. But before we close out the episode, and then we're gonna do a separate video for the continuation of our Nope season series, which we started then kind of put on pause for a minute. We gotta talk about the Subway Series possibility. Now, we talked a little bit about this before we went live, but do we really want a Subway Series?
Yep.
I'm kind of with you. And I don't, and I feel like both sides, we're both saying it out of I think respect and fear for the opponent. I don't lie, the Mets, you're talking about how, the Dodgers didn't see this version of the Mets, and the Brewers at the beginning of the season didn't really see this version of the Mets. Well, the Yankees did see this version of the Mets, and it didn't go well. And I think that, as far as from a Yankee fan perspective, as far as the Subway Series goes, I think that it would be awesome. I think that, and if it did happen, I would make a trip. I would make the trip to New York. I would definitely, do everything in my power to go to a game if feasible. But if not, I definitely have to at least be in New York and experience the atmosphere of Long Island or New York City during that, because last time it happened I was 10, you were what, 13, 14 when
14,
that happened?
I was in 8th grade.
Yeah, so we were both kids, so it's you couldn't really I was watching those games at home, after school. You couldn't really go out and watch it in a bar or a crazy atmosphere. So I definitely have to at least do that and at least experience it. And I think it would also be cool because I know that the networks, the TV networks, are probably praying for Yankees Dodgers, so they could be Judge versus Ohtani and New York versus LA and all that. And Fox has their studios in LA. And all the most marketable players in baseball on the biggest stage, so they definitely want that matchup. But I would love a Subway Series from the standpoint of how much it would piss off the rest of the country, and just it would give us as New Yorkers the chance to be even more insufferable than we normally are. So I enjoy that aspect of it, but from a matchup standpoint, I don't want the smoke, I don't want the stress. And it feels like the Mets would have a lot more to gain from this, and we would have a lot more to lose. Because, all right, if we win, then it's obviously obviously that's a devastating blow to Mets fans. Like, there's no sugarcoating it. Like, losing in the Subway World Series a second time after 25 years. But it would also kind of be like, and then it would be like, yeah, we would win, and that would be awesome. But the downside of like losing to the Mets in the Subway Series, we would, that kind of not erases it, but like, we can't use 2000 against you anymore if that happens. So it kind of erases that. And like, if the Mets beat the Yankees in the World Series after this season they've had, like, that is easily the greatest moment in the Mets franchise history. I don't want to be on the giving end of that. So those are the reasons why I don't want it. Those are the reasons why I do want it and I don't.
I mean, I wouldn't want it just because, like, to have a 7-game series where you're consistently facing Judge, Soto, and now you have Stanton woken up. That's terrifying, with the likelihood of probably at least 3 games in Yankee Stadium, maybe 4. Like, having to do that 4 times, terrifying. But as Chris and I were talking about this before I went on air, and I said, part of the reason for that is, we won a pennant in 2000. And I remember some things about that season. And, I've said on here, 1999 was really the year that I started living and dying with this team. I've like memory hold a lot of that year because of the way it ended. It's like, how can you really enjoy that year when you lost to your crosstown rival for a championship? Like, it's like, when we lost to the Royals in 15, like, it hurt. It always will. It's like, but it's the Royals. I know one Royal fan. That's it.
Yeah.
Everyone in school, even down here in Florida, was a Yankee fan because they'd won 3 in a row. It's like they were trendy. So it's like, and I was the only Met fan at school. So guess who caught all the shit
even down there, like, you were getting shit.
Yeah. So it's like, and for as great as this year's been, and it's been memorable, and we've talked about all the things that it's helped alleviate. If it ended with losing in another Subway World Series, like I would have to just forget all the other stuff, because it'd be like, yeah, we lost to them again. Like, and I see where you're coming from with the if we win, yeah, and
there's risks.
We did play the Yankees after we got hot.
Rewards to weigh in this situation for both sides.
I see it. It's just, I think I would feel more confident about this if I had already seen a title, because it's hard to get to these spots. This is the 9th time in the Mets history that they're in the LCS.
Yeah.
They've played 60 years. This is the 9th time they've gotten this far. Like, there is no guarantee that they get back here next year. There's no guarantee they get here in the next 5 years. Like, these are very precious times.
Yeah.
But
that's why I was saying, like, in our earlier episodes, like over the summer, like leading up to the deadline, like whether it was with you or Case, that's why I was always saying, like, like the Mets should be like going all in right now, or at least like, you at least got to be buyers, because like you kind of have this thing going right now, and you don't know what next year is going to look like. Even if next year was the year where you're planning to open the checkbook, it's like you got this right now. The last question before we close out, who do you think, like, what fan base do you think wants the Subway Series in the year of our Lord 2024 more? Do you think Yankees fans want it more, or Mets fans want it more, like, as a whole?
I mean, I can only speak for myself when I for everything I just said, but I do think Met fans on the whole probably want it more, because of the idea of, what a way it would be to get it after not winning for 38 years. I think for you guys, it's like, we just want to win it. Whoever's there is there. I don't think you guys have a World Series rival in that sense. It's more of, we just want to.
We don't have demons to exercise. Although, I mean, the Dodgers definitely beat us in a World Series at one point in history, but That wasn't during my time. So like there's really no demons to exercise. It's just like for us, it's like, all right, like let's just get from, let's change that 27 to 28.
Yeah.
Like let's the paint on the 27-time world champions, the paint on the 27-time world champions mural thing at Yankee Stadium, it's getting a little chippy. We need a little fresh coat and a fresh, another new crooked number there. That's what we want, and whoever's there is there.
For me,
Obviously, if
I
it
kind of
ends
hold
up,
it for the same idea of I just want it done. I don't care if it's Cleveland. Cool.
yeah,
It could be the White Sox. I wouldn't care. Like
yeah,
every time there's a drought that's ended these past few years, like the Rangers had theirs last year, the Cubs obviously had theirs, the Astros never won. All of a sudden, you look up and our name keeps getting a little higher on the title drought, and it's like, oh no, I don't want to be one of these 80-year-olds getting interviewed in 50 years, and it's like, I was a month old the last time they won.
yeah. You don't want to be like, one of those guys that's like shitting in your diaper, like watching.
I don't want to be a
Cubs
MasterCard commercial.
Yeah, you want to be old enough to, you want to be old enough to like go out and party after. So and we still have some gas left in the tank. Maybe our best days are behind us as far as partying and stuff goes, but we could still, we're still old. We're still young enough where,
Listen,
if our team,
if you needed Nolan Ryan to throw 100-mile-per-hour fastball, I think he still could.
yeah, exactly. Like
right
if you need me to go on a 3-day bender, because the Yankees won the World Series, like, I got one more in me. I got one more 3-day bender in me. So yeah, I think that I would agree. Like Mets fans as a whole probably want it more because I think if you look at that matchup, you got to feel good about the regular season success you had against the Yankees this year. And I think going into the matchup, like that's something to like feel good about. With the Yankees, it's kind of like like we're the big brother, and this might be like that could be end up being like a passing of the torch type of moment. So there's a lot to be afraid of with a Subway Series, but there would also be a lot to embrace if it did happen. So we'll see how things play out, and we'll see how these series go. But here's hoping to great a continued great postseason for both the New York teams, and we'll see. We'll see if this cocaine pipe dream of another Subway World Series comes true, and how what that's going to look like. So. Thank you for tuning in to this portion of the programming of the Black Diamond podcast. And stay tuned for our continuation of the No Season series after these messages. Peace.